Hello! Welcome to Emerald Lake, it's me, Raven. Welcome in, everybody. Bonjour. Hello. We're gonna read Creepypastas tonight. I'm probably not gonna be here all that long. We'll see how things go. But I wanted to start, and maybe it's all we do, but I bet we do more. I wanted to start with one of the stories that was by an author that we had liked instead of just one of the random ones. It's still something I have not read yet. It is still Creepypasta, and it was shown to us thanks to Random Story Generation. But it is from our author that we like. So I'm just going to pull that up. I realized I was muted there because sometimes when I try and touch stuff on OBS, it suddenly mutes, and I was looking at other parts of it. But yeah, okay, let's get it together. It is The Skin Collector. It's from our same, hi Oni, it's from our same favorite, or one of the fun peoples that we have found. So this one is Corbin Groshek, same one that wrote the Woman on the Sticks and Parts. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Yes, okay, yes. I was like, oh, did I? Yes, I did. Unmuted. Good, 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 good. This one is somewhere in between the length of the two stories that we have read so far, so I'm hoping is good. The classics with this author so far has been multiple points of views for the story, or at least like we different things that we focus on, and then oh, I didn't undo the redeems. Hold on while I unpause the redeems while I talk about the story, I guess. Holy poop, I thought you just wanted to stare at us. I mean, I am heckin' cute. I just stare at you? Is that what I'm doing? What is my favorite? I don't get the tinglies and stuffs, so that's not it. So what is my favorite one to do? Maybe humming, maybe... Oh wait, I have to repause that one. That one's still not functional. Heartbeats isn't too bad. When it works is what's better, because my current mic system doesn't really do it. The bubble wrap pops is fun. No, I accidentally doubled that. Did I remind you or something? Yes, clearly. As I'm clicking them, singing bowl is very nice, but it gets so loud. Like it permeates so many residences that it's like can be a lot. So I don't know if that's why. Can't chat tonight. I gotta get up super early. Well then, shut up. It's so good. Brushies is silly because now with the new mic I always say the little bit. Tappies are typically fun. I like when people give me an interesting thing to tap. I have various things to tap, textures, materials. Plastic and tin jar as a joke was fun. There's various ones. Oh, whoa. I still haven't fixed. I need to fix that. I want to be able to do the little mlem for you when you do that. Tin and plastic jar. We can do that one. But I do want to start with the story. I want to focus on one. Choose one. How dare you? Or even just stares at all of her little ASMR instruments and is like, I don't know. When do you want to do something? Anybody? Anybody excited? No? No? Not particularly? Actually, yes. I've decided. Do tappies. Oh no, you're good. I did not read it as rude. I will say tappies, but pick something else than the glass jar. And if you don't have one, I think I'll do my mug. You know, ceramic tappy. But there's various things. There's the little basket I keep the origamis in. I think that would be interesting. It wouldn't sound so much like tappies. It would sound like the wooden basket. There's, tapping something like the deck of cards or the book. There's tapping something plastic like the little bowl that houses some of the origami. There's the little tin jar. There's the ceramic. There's wood. There's specifically hollow wood like the kalimba. Or, yeah, I guess one of the other glasses. Table tapping. My desk is... I don't like it, but also I was choosing that one partially because then I don't have to move mic. Like some of them, I have to move the mic. But I wanted to read first, so that's what we're doing. As much as I appreciate all of these, I very much do. Thank you, Lahonkanoni and Wall Cotton Candy. You're gonna pick something, I'm sure. I will start with story, and then I'll do those. It says it's estimated 21 minutes, so it's probably going to be a lot. You chose table. Okay. I do have to move the mic anyway for dice, so that will work. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're going to move along straight into the story. It's already up. I'm expecting multiple points of view, possibly. I'm expecting mildly silly. I'm expecting a protagonist teen boy or preteen boy named Jake, because that's shown up in both of the other stories. And I just think this is silly. And yeah, good silly fun nonsense time with these has been the trend, so I'm excited. All right, the skin collector. Jessie wondered if she and her brother would have more in common if they had been identical twins. The differences didn't surface unless you spent several days watching them. Minus the lack of identical faces, they seemed to have the same bond that every other pair of twins had, so I guess they're fraternal twins. They could finish each other's sentences. They could communicate with a flash of a glance or eye movement. Maybe smashes into the wall. I'm late. You're not late. I don't keep attendance. You're fine. I'm late because I was supposed to start at 9, and here I am, barely starting the story. Nearly 11. Because reasons. But it's all good, Kate. You're good. Okay. So yes, it's, I guess, fraternal twins. Jessie is wondering if her brother and her could have more in common if they were identical twins. I'm guessing that means that brother is very different from her. Okay. They had very similar bond. They seemed to have the same bond that every other pair of twins had. They could finish each other's sentences. They could communicate with a flash of a glance or eye movement. Yet, as close as they were as siblings, they were still far apart as individuals. Alec was a gun nut, as much as he could be without having his own. He read the magazines, knew all the makes and specs by heart, down to the magazine capacities and body mods, and all else. That uncle that could talk about cars for 3 hours and you never understood a word, that's how Alec was with guns. Yet he was cool-headed and aimed with a steady hand when his dad took him to the firing range. So where Alec enjoyed blowing things up, Jessie liked blowing things out of proportion. Her parents swore that she would become a journalist as much as she loved sticking her nose in other people's business. Hey, she may as well get paid for it. One thing they would be sharing, like it or not, was the quote unquote new car that their dad had bought for their 16th birthday. The twins had already shared everything else: their living space, their food, their beds, their secrets, a womb. I added the a womb part. I just feel like that one's so obvious. He didn't include that? Come on, silly man author. Come on. Okay, sorry. Sharing a car wouldn't be an issue. Jessie came unglued when she was led outside with her brother, both of them blindfolded, and then the blindfolds were snapped off to reveal the dull, slightly rusted Plymouth with powder blue paint, freckled with rust. The brightest part of the car was the sloppy gift ribbon that had been wrapped around it. Jessie forgot all about supper and couldn't contain her excitement, begging her parents to let her and Alec take it for a drive right then. So, the shitty car is still exciting? Cool. Good. I like to hear it. It is season. It's reminding me of Bella and her rusty red truck. Okay. There had been a rash of disappearances. Oh, wait, no, I skipped. They agreed on 2 conditions. 1, the more level-headed of the siblings would drive, and they all knew that meant Alec. Rude. 2, they would check in every 15 minutes. That last condition was more their mother's than anyone else's. There had been a rash of disappearances in the area. It was a prickly frustration to officials because the targets had no rhyme or reason. No consistent age or location. Rich, poor, north, south, east, or west. It didn't matter. So, crime of opportunity. Okay. They had found a warm body to pin the crimes on. Ooh. An unshorn and bug-eyed character that was barely fit to stand trial. Okay. Who? Tell me more. He was the type that would take responsibility for the extinction of the dinosaurs if asked. But he pleaded guilty to the kidnappings, spouting wild and incoherent explanations for motives and locations of disposal and so forth, giving law enforcement and forensics a thick and chunky soup of logic to wade through. Well, if he's given a location, go look. If there's nothing there, then bullshit. He's just trying to get fame. Anyway, it was better than nothing. Better than believing the monster was still out there. Well, better for the politicians and whatever. Probably not better for the real safety and the such. Anyway, the whole thing blew over just before spring, and by the time the twins had a new car to play with, it was the first chill of autumn. But parental instincts run deep and will make good moms and dads jump at shadows long after there's no longer a threat casting them. Why are you trying to say that they're so delusional? We know that they're right. I'm very chatty. I need to shut up. I need to just read. Stop inserting your own thoughts. Why are you excited? Because he's good. Shut up anyway. Raven talks to herself. I think it's because I read so long last night that even though I've rested, I've immediately jumped right in. I'm like, no, this is all always, right? Yeah. Okay. Alec was driving and Jessie had shotgun. She lazed back, her feet up on the dashboard. The joke was on them, really. They thought that they were getting extra freedom, and their dad was a really awesome guy, which he was, but his gift wasn't completely unselfish. Now they could drive themselves to school. And maybe pick up the groceries on the way home, mayhaps. Or go do that errand, possibly, please. That is the way to do. Anyway, they lived out in the sticks, and making it to school on time had meant a rise and shine that their parents never got used to. Not anymore. Better yet, the news that they would be carpooling by themselves was received with nothing but joyful teenage capering. And so the twins cruised. Jessie couldn't leave the radio alone. Alec enjoyed himself also, just silently. Before long, Mom was saying that it was time to head in wherever they were. Alec agreed. He was tired in spite of the fun he was having, and he had to admit it, Jessie was exhausting. No amount of brotherly love would change that fact. All right, let's go home, he grunted. His sister sat bolt upright in her chair with worry, lines splayed across her forehead, the universal sign that whining was about to commence. Please take the long way home, Alec, please. I can't take the long way if you don't even know where we are. And he didn't. They had meandered so much that he had lost his bearings of where they sat on the rural map. Just try to wander around a little more on the way home, you know? Like, don't go in a straight line to get there. This is Obed, or Abed, O-B-E-D, country. It's impossible to go in a straight line on these back roads. Please. Okay, I'll try. Alec tried to steer towards anything interesting in the landscape. He slowed down for one last place. It looked to be an oversized barn. Its abandoned condition made it look like a gravestone. The length of the grass and weeds announced that nobody was taking care of the place. A gravel path led off the property and wound around the opposite side of the barn. The barn was close enough to the country road. I was like, country, brain, stop. Barn was close enough to the country road that the twins could read the faded logo of a feed company that flaked off of the barn wall. The broad structure glowered at them as they glided behind the old oaks that shadowed the road. He and his sister gazed at the ancient building as he began to catch a few of the changing colors of the setting sun. All right, that's it for our new car's maiden voyage, Alex said as he sped up and opened his GPS app. Jesse continued to stare out the window. We never really knew that place was there, did we? Alec asked, talking to the back of his sister's head. She was fully turned toward the window. Can you call Mom and tell her that we're close? He asked. No answer. Will you call Mom? She continued to stare out the window. He frowned to himself. 16 years old, and he was still the more mature of the two. She was pouting now that they had to go home. They had been driving around for the better part of an hour. There wasn't any reason to feel shortchanged. Then again, he didn't deal with the restless impulses that his sister did. Something inside of her was always eager to throw off the next restraint and rocket towards the next degree of freedom. From that standpoint, he could understand if she wasn't happy that they had to head in. He made the phone call to their mother, who was happy to hear that they were on their way. It had been a long hour for her. They pulled into the driveway of their 2-story ranch house. He killed the motor and looked over at his sister. She was still looking out the window. What are you waiting for? Let's go, he said. She didn't move a muscle. I'm getting this spooky already. He scratched his head and got out of the car and walked around to open the passenger door for her. He tapped on his phone's flashlight and shone it into her face. Whatever she was staring at with her wide brown eyes, she didn't see or hear her brother. That's when he ran to get their parents. They wrapped her in a blanket and set her on the couch in front of the TV, where she stared intently but saw nothing. Then, after about 15 minutes, she started to come around, just as their mother was about to call an ambulance. With the way that she was staring out like that, I would have called way sooner. Okay, 15 minutes they waited. Wow. Alec was the first to notice that she was looking around. Sis? Sis! He grabbed her by her shoulders and gave her a brotherly shake. I lost you for a minute there. What happened? I saw Emma. They're stars. The story breaks. This is also classic of our dude here. Okay. There was only one person that was as close to Jessie as her brother, and it was Emma. She was one of the missing persons. They never found her. Never found any trace of her. One minute she was there, and the next minute she wasn't. She vanished from her bedroom no less. Nobody felt safe after hearing that, knowing that it wasn't simply a case of wrong place, wrong time. You weren't even safe in your own home. Ooh. Tears carved paths down Jessie's face, her eyes looking less wild. Her parents sat on the couch on either side of her. Alex stood with his hands in his pockets. You say you saw Emma, her father said. Yes. Where did you see her? On the wall of the barn. They looked at Alec and he shook his head in denial. Was she hanging like someone had hurt her? She was climbing. She was sitting on the wall like a frog or like Spider-Man. She looked right at me. I mean, right at me. She wasn't looking at the car. She was looking at me. Her family exchanged concerned looks with each other. There were trees growing by the road, sis, Alec added. It wasn't that easy to see the barn. Maybe it was the light and shadow of the leaves. It wasn't, she said. It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. Here she placed her face in one hand. The evening closed without any sense of finality. Jessie's family insisted that her eyes were playing tricks on her and she wouldn't have it. What made her freaking catatonic for 15 minutes just to see her like that? I feel like this is... Wow. Okay, but okay. The twins got in the car to go to the school. Guess it's the next day. The twins got in the car to go to school. Alec could pass as rested. Jessie looked the same as the night before, just without the tears. So, unhinged a little bit, but okay. Alec watched her as closely as he could. They didn't have more than 2 classes together besides the lunch period. He noted that she tried to talk and smile with her friends, but the gloom in her eyes that settled in the night before was still there. It didn't leave for days, then weeks. It remained like a devil perched on her shoulder, clear up until the day when their mother came into the bedroom and announced that the usual road to the school was blocked off and that they'd have to find another way into town. It was when they had left the driveway that Jessie said, "Could we drive by the barn again?" Yes, the barn that hosted Jessie's hallucination was now referred to as the barn. You're all good, Cage. What? Why? The road it's on goes into town and doesn't put us far from the school. Alec eyed her. Is that what I saw you looking at on Google Maps last night? I just want to see it again. Alec didn't. He didn't get the creeps from that place, but he didn't like what it was doing to his sister. Like any proper twin brother, when she hurt, he hurt. But he couldn't come up with a concrete reason as to why they couldn't drive by the old place on the way to school. So they did. A silence dragged on until they took a parking space at the school. Did you see anything? Alec muttered. No, she said. The school day came and went, and Jessie asked Alec to drive by the barn on the way home. She asked him to drive by the barn the next day, to and from school, and he went. He guessed that it was a part of the healing process that nobody knew was unfinished. They hawked the place every day until their usual road reopened. One drive home, like any other, Jessie asked him to drive by the barn again. He was starting to lose track of how many times she had asked him to go by the place, and the weight of it all sat on him a little heavier each time. But he was a good brother, and he obliged. The great hulk of the old place came up over the bend again, and she asked him to slow down. The little car crept by the barn. She asked him to stop the car when they were in front of it. He looked at her. Are you wanting to check the place out? He asked. No, I just want to listen. He looked at all the mirrors, looked around them and hesitated, and then he killed the motor. The stillness of Obed country stole in and instantly lessened the weight of what they were doing. The breeze was a soothing whisper. Red-winged blackbirds trilled in the distance. Jessie couldn't look at the barn. She just sat like that. She just sat like she was tuning in to her ears more than she was her eyes. And then, as if with much effort or with a stiff neck, she turned to look at the same wall where she thought she saw her friend. You're still broken up over Emma, huh? The sound of her brother's voice made her jump. Oh, sorry about that. She nodded. She was starting to fade away, and then I suddenly saw her, literally climbing the wall. It was like something out of a nightmare. It was so cool to see her, and it was so scary at once. She chewed on one knuckle. I just wanted to see her again, that's all. If I didn't see her, what did I see? Alec eyed the mirrors. They were still alone on the road. I think I see Lucky. I see him pretty often, actually. That cat made more of an impression on me than I thought. The attempt at small talk didn't get his sister to bite. I don't know if that's small talk exactly. You think you see your dead cat? I don't know if that's particularly small talk. It implies concerns. Anyway, there was a low sound like distant thunder that made the twins do a double take. A sort of low rumble could be felt in the body of the car. There was a half-empty Coke bottle in the drink holder, and the dark liquid rippled. Alec looked this way and that, looking for the thunderheads. The sky was clear. It grew louder. It was a purring roar like a panther. No, board, we added in the Discord. That is not, that's not what we're reading now. We're doing creepypastas, and that's all wrapped up now, actually. Check out the YouTube and Discord. Okay, the sky was clear. It grew louder. It was purring roar like a panther, only heavier, thicker, and it peaked to a point where there was a shrill cry laid over it like a cry of pain or a distressed child. The sound made Jessie's insides twist and excited a terror in her without a nameable cause. Alec's instincts made him start the car and peel out. Both of them looked into each other's blanched faces. Alec was shaken but had his wits about him. His sister, though, looked like she had been kicked back into the dark place that she had just crawled out of. Then came the obvious questions. "What do you think that was?" she said. He didn't answer. She answered for him. It sounded like exotic animals. He nodded. He could see that her chest was rising and falling faster, then starting to pick up a speed like a piston. "If I saw Emma, and we then just heard animals like large cats," she looked up at him in mounting terror. "What if they're illegally keeping large, vicious animals in that barn and feeding people to them? Oh God, Alec, what if they're going to feed Emma to a lion or a tiger?" Alec's eyes ticked back and forth as if looking for an exit, but he was in a moving car, so there wasn't one. Jessie's eyes were also bouncing around as if she connected the dots, one terrifying connection after another, and she began babbling in a sort of panicked squeak, and she was getting louder. Alec began urging her to calm down, and he discovered that never in the history of telling someone else to calm down did they ever calm down when told to calm down. That's the kind of comments that we were looking for. Thank you. Just a little silly. I like it. Jessie had become manic and babbled breathlessly all the rest of the way to the school. "Sis, knock it off," Alec finally said, and just like that, she was quiet. "Let's go, okay? I'm sorry, just let's go." There didn't seem to be any further issues until the next day at lunch. She was quiet for the ride up, but when Alex was carrying his lunch tray into the commons, his friend Brad came up to him and said, "Hey, Alec, you might want to get your sister some downers." My brain read downstairs, so I was like, wait, how's happening? "Hey, Alec, you might want to get your sister some downers." "Oh, no, we're accusing my sister of taking drugs. Oh, boy." Alec's heart rate picked up when he entered the commons. The only voice he could hear was Jessie's. It was the same torrential speech that he had heard in the car, and that could only mean one thing. She was running her mouth full auto to a group of girls leaning in at the same table, and they were getting the whole thing from the climber on the barn wall to the strange sound that spooked her and her brother. Some of the girls began laughing scornfully at Jessie and making fun of her. Others were getting angry. How could she disrespect Emma like that? It's bad enough that the girl vanished. The situation didn't need to be revived just for being part of an elaborate attention stunt. Alec just hoped that nobody pieced together that they had been on somebody else's property. Alec's like, yeah, this is a problem. She may be mentally ill. Maybe, this is a problem. Maybe they're bullying her is a problem. Let's just hope they don't know about our illegal step. Hope no one blames me. Oh, screw you, Alec. Just a little bit. One of the counselors poked her head into Jessie's third hour English. She got her attention and asked her to come into the hallway. Come see me after school? She asked. Just 15 minutes. It'll be more than 15. Jessie touched base with Alec to make time for the meeting. Great. Now everyone thought Jess was going cuckoo. And you know what? Maybe she was. Why is Alec being pulled into this? Or maybe it's just like, oh, because he's driving her home, probably. That's all. Okay. The story, we have the little stars, the little break, and it picks up with the ticking of the clock in the counselor's tiny office was just a little too loud for Jessie. It sounded like it was leading up to something like a bomb. The two of them just stared at each other for a long moment. I hear that you feel that you spotted Emma Warner. Jess kept her eyes to the floor. Do you want to talk about it? Me and my brother got our own car, and we drove a different way to school than normal. We drove by an old barn that we didn't know was there before. I saw Emma in front of the barn. Did she look hurt? No, not that I could tell. Did you go back? We drove by several times while the road out of town was closed. Did you see her again? No. Then what happened? I just wanted to see if we could spot her one last time, even if she wasn't real. I wanted to see whatever it was that I was seeing as being her. So we drove by again, and we heard something. Something terrible. It sounded like a lion's roar or a tiger's. I wasn't sure. And it sounded like someone was screaming. I started thinking that maybe Emma had been kidnapped and was being kept there, maybe with others, and they were being fed to the big animals, and Jess was losing her composure. The counselor's features were both sympathetic and stern. Her eyebrows were cinched, but her gaze was steady. I'm not going to judge, Miss Shepherd, but you do realize how this sounds. Jessie looked down again. I think you might be experiencing some shade of PTSD from your loss of Emma. And I'll tell you that you're not alone. You're not the only student that has brought her up in the last few weeks. So you don't believe me. Well, if Emma was being held for the purpose of being food for animals, I doubt you would have seen her out in the open, let alone climbing a wall so freely. Jessie hung her head. Miss Shepherd, there's no shame in being overwhelmed. You're no dummy. But we are fragile creatures. Stress and sadness will do things to a rational person over time. My brother's waiting for me. Don't keep him waiting, then. Remember, my door is always open. My story breaks. It picks up with... Over the days that followed, Jess was quiet about her experiences at school, but at home, especially after Alec was in bed trying to sleep, she was at his bedside, staring at him until he would open his eyes and ask her what was wrong. What's up, sis? They have Emma. I know they do. Someone has her at that barn and is going to feed her to animals if they haven't already. It was merely annoying the first few nights, but after the fifth night, Alec had enough, and he was all about some sort of plan of action. Oh, okay, so he's in. Yes. So what do you want to do? He hissed at her as she stood over his bed with wide and sleepless eyes. We need to investigate, she said. That was both the answer he expected and the last thing he thought he would hear. Really, sis? It would be the biggest local expose ever. I've got the camera. We can find a way to be there long enough to find out what's going on and turn it all in to the authorities. We'll be heroes, and we'll save innocent people that don't deserve to be eaten, like Emma. Okay, for one thing, we are not storming somebody else's property with a video camera. Second, even if there really is a collection of big cats in that barn, how are we going to rescue anyone from them? Neither of us is allowed to just lift Dad's guns, right? Picking a fight with panthers calls for bullets. Can't just sit back and do nothing, she whisper-whined. If I'm right, then my friend is in serious trouble, along with who knows who else. The world has decided they're all dead and they might not be. They might be up against something worse than death, and we're the only ones that have seen any signs of life out of that old place. If they're in there and they're in danger, then the clock is ticking. Alex slid his jaw to the side in thought. We'll either have to do it on the way to school or on the way back, and we can't let anyone know what we're up to. We'll have to come up with a cover story to explain why we're either late for school or late coming home. And that was the first time Alec had seen something like relief in his sister's eyes for days. They decided that they would investigate early in the morning when people and animals would most likely be asleep. Alec phoned the school stating that they could be a few minutes late on account of vehicle issues. The school didn't question it. They made the bold move of leaving for school 20 minutes early. Nobody at home questioned it. The universe had officially sanctioned this investigation. It was a dismal morning. A spectral sheet of fog engulfed the landscape in a world of short-sightedness that was revealed a few feet at a time. It scared Jessie. Alec thought that it was perfect from a tactical standpoint. They found the barn despite the feeling of being lost, and just like that, they turned on to the barn's gravel path for the first time. They could see the roof hovering over the world above the fog. I actually want to turn back. Alec, are you not concerned that if you're dealing with cats who are good at being quiet and stalking their prey, that you, possible prey, not being able to see them as well is, a problem? Why do you think that that's perfect from a tactical standpoint? You really put yourself as the predator in this situation, my guy. You're just as much prey. Oh boy. If that is really your theory, that's a bad idea. Oh boy. Okay. The untended grass was even taller up close, and it drifted out of the fog like seaweed in murky water. The barn emerged, a shipwreck haunted by birds instead of fish. The path curved around the barn, taking the twins to the opposite side of the building. Here was quite an expanse of gravel, hemmed in by a tide of tall grass. Alec was the first one to feel it, the sensation that they weren't alone. Ooh. A luminous flickering created an orange ghost in the fog. The twins got out of the car and approached. They found a burning barrel. There's someone here, Jess. We have to leave. We just got here, she said, and she stepped back from the barrel as soon as she peered in. Alec came over to look. Among the rubbish in the barrel, blackened with red, pulsating embers, were several bones, large bones. There were fragments of ribs in the mix. The sight of them made Alec uncomfortable. There was a flash and the recorded sound of a camera. Jessie was taking pictures with her phone. She cursed to herself when she realized she hadn't silenced the sound effect. Jess! There, the sound's off now, okay? She said. Hi, Gary-san. They stalked toward the barn, which cast a shadow through the fog, making it seem even darker and gloomier than it actually was. Jess held her phone up with shaking hands, a blinking red light indicating that she was recording. Alec was completely dialed into his tactical senses. He couldn't see much, but he didn't see anything that indicated the presence of hostages or zoo exhibits. He was waiting for a hidden camera to give itself away with a blinking red light, but there was nothing. Sounds? There was the crackling of the barrel behind them, a gentle sound. The breeze teased his ears. A high humming sound appeared. He almost thought it was human until the breeze relented enough that he could hear that it was flies. A few clouds of flies churned hither and yon, and they filled the air with a dissonant song. And then there was another hum, but he felt it before he heard it. It was a vibration in the ground itself that became a subsonic rumble, like distant thunder. It made Jessie freeze in her tracks. The twins looked at each other. The sound swelled again. There was a third sound, speech. The staccato whispering of a single voice that repeated the same thing over and over again in a harsh whisper. It doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. The twins neared another congregation of flies, but it seemed that they flocked around something solid and tall. The sun filtered through the fog to give the figure a rusty red color as its skinless muscles flexed and twisted with its furious activity. It was stitching something to its own body. Ah! The needle was shard of bone. Patches of loose skin that had clearly belonged to someone else hung around the creature's flailing torso and arms as it tried to make it part of its own body, and it just wasn't working. It doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. The creature wasn't human. The ill-gotten skin was. It snapped its head in the direction of the twins, and it froze along with them. The gelatinous black eyes had a gloss to them that shifted, telling Alec that it was looking them over. The twins decided to run. The thing decided to chase. Hi, Natsu! It has been a while, but welcome in. Get cozy. Okay, so they're running. It's chasing. No sooner had Jess's door shut than Alec had fumbled the keys into the ignition and put the car in reverse and turned in a half arc. Just as he threw the car into drive, the skinless thing threw itself against Jesse's passenger window. Blood and saliva and other things rained on the glass as the creature began barking. Its sunken black eyes were wide with the universal language of madness. Its unnaturally low voice rattled the bones of the twins, but the same throat overlaid its bellow with a shrill squeal that could rend eardrums. Alec recognized the sound right away as he felt his own jaw rattling. He peeled out of there, flinging gravel every which way, the creature's echoing bark becoming speech. Fit, 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 fit! It goes from just like the words fit to all caps fit for the last three. I don't want to actually yell at you guys, but yeah, it's a big yell. Okay, and then there's the story breaks and it picks back up with the next day. Both of the shepherd twins looked like ghosts that had seen a ghost. I would imagine they looked like that the same day, because they did that in the morning. But okay, they didn't have much to say to each other or anyone else for several days. As usual, Alec was the first to shrug off the shock and don a mask of normalcy, just in time for their mother to ask about what was bothering the two of them. He explained it away as stress over school. We could have dreamed it, couldn't we? Jessie said as she stood in her brother's bedroom, gazing out the window. He sat on his bed, glued to his phone. Mm-hmm. It was foggy outside, and our senses were heightened. You can't just say that. What do you mean your senses were heightened? We were expecting to see something. Mm-hmm. Come on, Alec. I've been having really bad dreams. I want this whole thing to just be a bad dream. Aren't you being affected by this at all? Alec didn't respond. Then Jessie added, Did you get any good footage? I got pictures of everything but the thing. Okay. I needed to hydrate. Okay. Alec held up his phone. He showed her a series of pictures taken from the driver's seat of the car. Jess was caught in poses that would be comical in any other context. The window was a blur with a face that couldn't quite be made out, complete with the silhouettes of clawed hands that were also blurred from frenzied movement. Okay, go ahead and go eat, Yar. Take care. I hope you get lots of rest. You actually got it, she said in a small voice. They aren't good shots. Yeah, but you actually got it, for real. Hold on, I'm gonna cough. Hold on. Okay, sorry. They aren't good shots. Yeah, but you actually got it for real. Jessie touched her face with trembling hands and then took his phone to look at it more closely. There was something about Jessie's reaction to the photos that made Alec want to delete them. Seeing the creature had shaken up both of them, but she was already shaken up before. In the morning, Alec got up before everyone else, and he deleted the photos. She's a journalist! Why are you doing this? Now people think she's crazy! Ah! Anyway, okay. But he says, or he has deleted the photos. Okay. He deleted the photos, and then it says, no big loss, and I disagree. But anyway, they could have been faked by anyone with a Halloween mask. They didn't prove the existence of any strange monster or the cause of the disappearance of any lost friends. Alec walked into the school lunch commons to hear Jessie's voice once again babbling, but this time it was high with tensions, and it was joined by a gaggle of other voices. Nobody was laughing at her this time. They were all mad. One of the girls surrounding Jessie took her phone from her and dashed it to the floor, cracking the screen. Their parents were called to the school for an emergency, in quotes, meeting. Alec stood outside the door to the counselor's office, leaning against the wall, bouncing his shoulders off of it. The first to come out were his parents, both wearing expressions of concern. Next came Jessie with flushed cheeks. We'll see you when you get home, his mom said as she touched his forearm and kept going, leaving Alec alone with Jessie in the hallway. You transferred the pictures from my phone, didn't you? He said. The way she looked at the floor said enough. It was the closest thing I had to evidence. Yeah, of what? What we seen and heard, and maybe of what happened to Emma. Alec folded his arms and turned away to roll his eyes. So what did they say? That I imagined all of it and that I need help? Yeah, well, maybe they're right. Let's go, he said. You can't just say that. You were there too. You saw and heard the same things I did. He reached out to take her arm, but she shrank away. How do you know that wasn't Emma's skin that it was putting on? Jessie, come on. Jessie wouldn't come on, with come on in quotes. She took off down the school corridor faster than Alec cared to chase. He felt the last layer of his patience eroding, a process that had been in the works for weeks. You know what they say happens when the guy that never snaps finally does. He stepped outside to cool off. It didn't take him long, about 10 minutes. He began pacing the parking lot and glancing at the school doors on each pass. Jessie was still in there. He got out his phone to text her. And they've got nicknames, Smart Alec, and then hers later is Jessie Kisses, I guess, but anyway. Smart Alec. Okay, sis, we really, RLY, need to get out of here. Another defiant 5 minutes passed. Smart Alec, I know you're mad, but let's go home and get this day behind us, okay? His phone dinged 2 minutes later. Jessie Kisses. It hurts, Alec. Smart Alec. I know it does. Let's get home. We'll feel better when we all get home. Jessie Kisses. It hurts because it doesn't fit. Alec's forehead wrinkled for a half second before the adrenaline hit him. He called her phone. No answer. He called again. She answered. Jessie, hello? Can you hear me? A low, rumbling sound like an amplified purr filled his ear. Then the call dropped. He nearly tore the door off its hinges when he stormed back into the school. One of the teachers spotted him. Young man, we'll be locking the door soon, and you'll need to be off of the premises. Young man? Young man? The teacher faded away as Alec marched past. He held up his phone and continually redialed Jessie's number. The teacher followed him from a distance while shouting. Shut up, shut up, shut up, Alec mouthed to himself. That's when he heard it, his sister's music box ringtone. Muffled and distant. One last redial and he followed the hollow sound to the ladies' room. There was the sound of a crash just before he burst into the bathroom to find the phone sitting on the grate in the corner of the floor. Streaks of blood led away from it, and up and across the walls and out a shattered window. Alec tumbled to his knees. didn't call anything out, but I was consistently like, we're really having a trend that she's like, oh, so weak and oh, so can't handle it, but he can, and he's so reasonable and he can manage. I was like, either this is weird or this is gonna like play into the one of the horror tropes, and here we are. She's the one that dies. Yep, should have seen that. But okay, story breaks and it picks up. The looks that the school counselor had given to Jesse were then given to Alec as he rose to validate his sister's story. Suddenly, he was just as adamant as she had been that there was a skin-thieving alien on the loose. Alec had no appetite for drama, so explaining his behavior rationally was impossible. It hit the news that the kidnapper was still at large and that whoever was rotting in prison must have been the wrong man. Was this how Jessie felt when she was trying to tell Alec and her parents and her peers and everyone that she saw something out there that couldn't be explained? Alone, isolated by 100% of the people in her world? Yeah, kind of. It's a great analogy for how people don't listen to women. But also just particularly her in this instance. Authorities were looking for Jessie for several weeks. There was blood there. I mean... Then they transitioned to just looking for a body that wouldn't turn up like all the others hadn't. The funeral was abysmal, without any remains to be laid to rest. Life went on with a limp. Story breaks and it picks back up. And this is the last section. The end is not far. Alec lay awake in bed. Nothing unusual for him. He had spent every single day since his sister's disappearance thinking about her. His other half, his wild, untamed counterpart. He knew she was dead. He just knew. If she were still out there somewhere, he would be able to feel it. The distance he felt inside of himself was a sanity-crushing ache. A breeze stirred him from the uneasy sleep that had overtaken him. The curtains around his open window billowed and swayed. He liked sleeping with the window open, and would do so until it was simply too cold for it. He was about to slip back under the tide of sleep when a voice drifted inside. Alec? Sleep fled him, replaced by a strange sort of anxiety. The name was on his lips before it was in his thoughts. Jessie? He was at the window in an instant. Nobody answered him, and no one confronted him. He threw on some clothes and went outside. It was a full moon, and it was directly overhead with no shadows to cast. There was still nobody. That is, until he turned to go back inside. A familiar shape blocked the door. It stepped forward, and the face of his sister was revealed, but it wasn't her eyes in those dark sockets that were boiling with black madness. Alec, she said with a smooth voice that trailed into a deep purr. Alec, it hurts. She slowly came toward him, allowing him to see that her shape was all wrong, like the body underneath wasn't made for the skin. It hurts because it doesn't fit. The end. Ta-da! But there you go. That was The Skin Collector, and I now will finally get to the redeems. And then I think we'll do, depending on what the random story that pops up is, we'll probably do one more story. But, alright, let's do all our redeems now. Let's go. Yeah. It's such a weird sound. Maybe I should change it to like tinklies? I don't know. But how odd a sound to call it tin in a plastic jar, and yet I do. Oh, is OBS freezing? Are we better? A little bit better? Maybe? My goodness. It's being irreversible. Okay. Alright, tin and plastic jar. Here we go. the tin in the plastic jar. And I'm gonna do mouth pops before I do table taps and dice. Here we go. Here we go. You're attacked during mouth pops. I'm sorry. Okay, there was our mouth pops. And now I'm going to move the mic before we do dice and then table tappies. But hello. Hello, Togoisto, or however you would prefer I pronounce that. Yeah, I'm gonna move the mic, but I'm gonna mute it real quick because I don't trust it. Just Tego? Tego it is. Okay. Okay. Hmm? There we go. That was our toppy tops. And yes, we are doing creepypastas today, but we're not going to be going. Today has been. It has felt more than a day, but apparently it has been a day. Ugh, less than, whatever. Oh my gosh. So I'm not going to be streaming quite as long, but we are doing the creepypastas. We had just read the Skin Collector creepypasta, but I'm about to hit a random story button to see what else we get. And yeah. But I still have this one, and I'm not sure because I've seen this plenty. I'm not sure if you're trying to ask for me to chat in whisper or just say the trigger words in whisper, which is typically I treat these. I'm very much better with the literal. So like I would think what you have redeemed is for me to just say 3 words. um, but yeah. If you're trying to ask for just all chatting in whispers, I can try and do more chats in whisper, but it can hurt your voice to do just whisperings. So I can't go and say like, yeah, we can keep doing this. I can condone it. I can like maybe do it once. I cannot say that I will do it all the time. That's all I want to say. So yeah. But okay, with that said. Chat with chat. Chat with chat. Ah, I'm moving things. Forgot to put the dice away. But there we go. That on? Didn't feel like it was. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Brain is just not doing the brain thing. Okay. Let's see our next story. What is it gonna be? Nervous. Other dream says ready. Oh, does it say that? It has been a while since I set up whispers, and people, my particular group, they tend to just have specific words. But okay, I will have to reread that. My brain is not finding words. Sorry. I should have been whispering more. Or checking what that says. But yeah, okay. I am still gonna start the story soon though, so there won't be too much whispering yet. Yes, okay, so I'm gonna hit the random story. Let's see what this is. Depending on how long it is, I might not do more than just this one story. Heck, if it's a super long one, I might not even do this one. Oh, it's a short one. Yeah, we'll definitely do this one. If you don't scream for me, it's awesome. I don't think I was screaming. That's a general specific. That wasn't a plan. I guess I'm under writing now, but like that is the assumption with ASMR streamers, and that's for the longest time what I was under because they didn't have a reading section. Joey, I'm very bad at picking that up, especially through text. How am I supposed to know? Oh, but okay, good. Yes. Okay. This one is fairly short, so we'll definitely finish this one. We'll see how I feel at the end of it. If I want, you're fine. I was being joking back. Haha, we have gotten each other equal. Okay, so I'll read this one. We'll see how I feel. I might need to dip out after this one. I might be able to do another one. See, that's how my brain is. Yay. Same team, Diggle. Okay, here it is. No more whispers. I have to be audible. People have to be able to hear me. It's called I Saw My Professor Die. Which Oh boy. There's a problem. That is. Oh. Apparently it's going to be very bad. And it's a physics teacher. Yikes. I'm nervous that it's like a physics experiment gone bad, which could be all kinds of ways to die horribly. But anyway, we're about to read that. That's going to be interesting. I imagine if you don't like talking about these things or hearing about these things, you would not want to be involved with any of the creepypastas or SCPs because violent deaths is consistent with both of these. Both worlds use a lot of those. But anyway, that's what we're probably going to do with. Yeah, buddy. And a boop and a boop and a hydrate. Okay. The day I accidentally witnessed my physics teacher die horribly, I didn't know what to do. I went to my classes in a daze, sat there stunned for hours, and wondered if people would think I had something to do with it if I reported it. After much anguish, I finally resolved to call the police when I got home, but I never got the chance. On my walk past his house, Professor Randall was sitting on his front porch as if nothing had happened. Well, what the hell? Sir? Hello? Okay. He noticed me staring and he waved. On pure reflex, I waved back. Then, absolutely horrified, I walked on past. I didn't go home. Instead, I went to my friend Dustin's house. He lived 1 block away from the professor, and he was in the same physics class. There was a chance he would understand. If he didn't, he could at least help me snoop. Yeah, that's the energy we're here for. Dustin was skeptical. You saw him die. Yeah, I acted it out in his living room. I missed class and his office hours yesterday, so he told me to drop my homework off at his mailbox in the morning. When I went by, his front door was drifting in the wind, so I checked it out. I heard something in the basement, and when I looked down the stairs, I saw him fall in a vat of acid. A vat of acid? Why would our physics professor have a vat of acid in his basement? Because he's a physics professor. They have weird things. They are weird people. I say this fully adoring all the people that like physics that I know. Okay. I suddenly felt rather stupid. Good question. No, that was accurate. I ran out of there and didn't get a chance to look around much. Well, let's see what we can find out. One thing I gotta say with these creepypastas. Tell me who's speaking! Please! I can assume, but just to be kind. Please! Anyway. Well, then let's see what we can find out. When you're visually reading it, it makes sense. But when I, Raven, am reading it out loud to you guys, I have to, do my best to overemphasize. This is a new thought. I'm telepathic, telling you with my mind each time that I'm I promise this is a different person speaking now. Or when it's really confusing, no, this is the same person speaking. I'm trying to convey. How do I... Just tell us so it's a little bit easier to keep up with, please. Okay, anyway. The point was that Dustin said, sure, let's go, I guess. But anyway, that was the answer I'd been hoping for. Together we walked toward the teacher's house, approaching through backyards and from behind fences. When we reached his place, we crept along the side, only to find that his basement windows had been blocked by cardboard on the inside. We couldn't see anything, but we could certainly smell something. I winced at the acrid nostril-burning odor. That must be the acid. He wasn't so sure. Is that what acid smells like? I have no idea. Various things are very acidic. Acid itself is just such a broad... Anyway, okay, jumping in. Physics. Okay, sorry. We heard a car pull out of the driveway up ahead. After a tense minute, we walked around to the front of the house to find him gone. I was intent on leaving, but Dustin had other ideas. Weird. You'd think it would be the other way around. He slid open a window, then crawled inside. I followed, if only because I needed to know that I was not crazy. Over there, I whispered, and we crept toward the basement door. Wait a minute, this is a different story. It is long. When you leave and come back, things have happened. This is the joys of watching live entertainment, even digitally. Considering how often you drop a trigger and leave. Yes, we did your triggers. I think you probably missed those. This is what you need to get through your head, you silly little goose. Please. If you don't want to miss anything, I guess just watch stuff on YouTube afterwards. I don't know. Okay. Acid. I follow. Over there, I whispered. You're so silly. Okay. Over there, I whispered, and we crept toward the basement door. When Dustin went to open it, then flinched. It's hot. Holding his sleeve over his hand, he carefully turned the knob. That's kind of exactly when you're not supposed to open it. Brace yourself for a fire, sir. Okay. Or something. Yes, there's acid involved. Actually, what we're doing, Lahonk, is that we saw our professor die. Okay, you're all caught up. we saw a professor die horribly. We didn't specify how until we told our friend Dustin, I guess. But then we saw the same professor as we were walking home. So it's like, wait, whoa, what are you, huh? So we had apparently gone to the physics professor's house when he said, hey, you missed class and you missed my office hours. Just drop off your homework in my mailbox this morning. And so we did. And then that's when we saw him. The door was opening, just flapping. Why is it wide open? And we went to look, and we heard something in the basement, and we saw him fall into a vat of acid, which is, what the hell? We told all this to Dustin, our friend who did not live far from the professor, because as we were walking home, thinking that before we got home, or once we got home, we'd call the cops, we saw the professor live, and, well, Dustin doesn't live far, so let's plan to do something. And Dustin said, I am all in. Let's go snoop on the physics professor. And so, yeah, now, you're all caught up. Okay, so Dustin went to open it. It's hot. Holding his sleeve over his hand, he carefully turned the knob. When the basement door opened, we were greeted with a blast of acrid, humid heat. We both covered our mouths and noses, then took a few steps down. It's hot enough to heat the doorknob, but it's not hot enough to be something more than just heat. I think that's a little... Physics would fight you, probably, on that. Anyway. Okay. Covered ours, took a few steps down. I saw it. There. There, in quotes. So, I saw it. There! I think we shout. I don't know. But it wasn't a vat of acid. It was a wide plant of some sort, curled and closed like a Venus flytrap in waiting. It looked big enough to hold a person. You confused a giant Venus flytrap for a vat of acid. Visually, how? But mechanically, yeah. I mean, it is. It's just like our stomachs are, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, good enough. Every step of this, I'm just thinking about physics professor type peoples, and they would be having similar comments, I think, to me. Hi, Darkstorm. Okay. It looked big enough to hold a person. And then, I guess we say it, I'm not sure. He must have been in this. Daring to briefly touch it with a covered hand, Dustin countered, Are you sure he wasn't just leaning over it? Wait, so you did touch it? You touched it. Are you sure you touched the outside? Because if you touched the inside, something next would have been happening. But okay. How am I? I am tired, but we're going to keep reading. Okay, so are you sure he wasn't just leaning over it? I shuddered at the memory. I saw his face melting off his skull. Oh yeah, that would imply acid. He froze. Oh. That was when we heard the car pull back into the driveway outside. Oh no. We looked around in panic, but there was nowhere to hide. Sorry. There was no place to hide except behind the couch-sized plant itself. We hunkered down and waited, breathless, as we heard his footfalls descend into the basement. Dustin and I exchanged worried glances, but we didn't have to wait long. The professor pulled a leaf at the base of the plant, and it opened up next to us, releasing more foul-smelling hot air. Then he dove right in, face first, clothes and all. Well, thankfully, you did not have to watch your professor strip. That's a different layer of the trauma we don't need to add. We watched as Professor Randall's flesh melted away, skin first, followed by organs, leaving a skeleton. That, too, dissolved over the course of several seconds. Once there was nothing but green liquid darkened brown by gore, the contents sluiced away as if someone had opened a drain. We ran. Back at Dustin's house, we screamed at each other for a good hour, just trying to understand what we'd seen. After that, we went home, vowing never to speak of it to anyone. Neither of us wanted the police thinking we had anything to do with whatever the hell we'd just witnessed. For my part, I remained awake in bed that night, reliving the traumatic sight over and over. I didn't sleep at all. Imagine our surprise when Professor Randall was teaching physics class the next day. Gray, slicked back hair, hawk nose, and single mole, the same man we saw every day. If anything, he seemed more energetic than usual, perhaps even animated. What? Dustin and I sat stock still the entire class, just staring. When it was over, we both followed him at a distance. He walked the entire way home. His car was in his driveway when we arrived. He was not a young man by any means. How had he gotten to campus? So, well, I mean, if he's who says he can't walk? Well, how far was camp? Anyway, we're gonna ignore the walking and not whatever, because that's, he could be fitter than you think, and it's good on him that he's whatever. But the bit being more animated. Hey, ooh, what? Huh? How? We didn't dare get any closer. However, the next day, Dustin decided to stay and watch his house to try and see if our professor was traveling another way. When Professor arrived to teach class, I texted him, "Dude, you missed him. He's here." I was waiting for this to be something like clones or some sort, but anyway. "Dude, you missed him. He's here." Dustin wrote back, "WTF? He never left. No chance." Confused, I waited until class was over and then followed the professor again. This time he didn't walk home. Instead, he slipped into a disused janitor's closet at the far end of the building. I tried the door after a couple minutes and found it locked. "He's here," Dustin texted. What the hell was going on? He straight up walked into a closet here. I've been right outside the entire time. There's no way out. Also, he's only been in there 5 minutes. Oh my gosh. It says, "I have a theory. Hold on, I'll be there soon." So Dustin says, "I have a theory," and I'm sitting here thinking, I think we have the same theory, Dustin. I think we have the same theory. Anybody else thinking? Anybody else? Okay. I waited nervous until Dustin arrived. He pulled a crowbar out of his backpack. "I have a feeling we're going to find another plant in there," in quotes. He said this. Please, specify when people talk. I have to... fine. When we managed to force our way in, he was right. Behind several shelves, we found another couch-sized fly trap plant. I backed away from it, but he approached it. You know what I think it is? He pulled the leaf at the bottom, and it opened to reveal an organic, leafy bed glistening with unknown depths of acid. I think it's a transporter somehow. The hell? Like from Star Trek? I moved one step closer. How, though? Well, he's not dying when he jumps in, clearly, Dustin thought aloud. And he's getting places faster than should be possible. He's been so excited since that week he had off last month. Do you think he found something on his trip? This impossible plant? I bet he hasn't even told anyone yet. I wasn't buying it. It melts you. How could it be a transporter? I don't know. That's what the transporter does in the shows. It breaks you down into tiny pieces, then reconstructs you at the other end. He took a deep breath. Acid still breaks you down, right? If that even is acid, it's a transporter, just not the way we expected. Still intending on saying something skeptical, I stepped forward, but probably thinking I was going to pull him away, that prompted him to jump. No! He leapt in sideways, not face first like the professor had. He splashed in shoes first and sank in up to his waist. I stared. He turned and looked at me. Then he began to scream with absolute horror. I reached out as he began to sink, and I managed to grab his hand. That's a bad idea! I braced my feet against the base of the plant, but a vine-like tongue wrapped around his torso and dragged him down. Once his jeans had melted away, the green acid turned brown, and I knew his legs were dissolving. I tried as hard as I could, but his terrified screaming was like a drill in my brain, and his heart hammered so hard in my chest that I thought I would pass out and get dragged in too. He didn't die fast enough. I let go, but he was still alive when he sank fully in. I watched his face dissolve. When did you let go of his hand? Oh, yeah, it just says I let go, but okay, fine. Leaving just a screaming skull with melting eyes until his lungs filled, and the sound became a babbling moan of agony. Very disgusting. Yeah, yeah. 10 out of 10 gore, but ick. Mercifully, finally, he sank away completely, just before the liquid sluiced away like it had at the professor's house. I want to reread that and give it the horror, but I'm just too intrigued by the bio-sci-fi of it. I'm so excited. The physics of it. Okay, I'm going to reread it. He watched his face dissolve, leaving just a screaming skull with melting eyes until his lungs filled, and the sound became a babbling moan of agony. Mercifully, finally, he sank away completely, just before the liquid sluiced away like it had at the professor's house. There you go. Anyway, okay. Half crying from the terror, half laughing from the shock, I wandered out of that janitor's closet in a state of pure, wide-eyed emptiness. The only thing I could do now was hope that Dustin had been right. I drifted away from campus, then down the suburban streets towards his house. I knocked. After a few minutes, I heard footsteps. The door opened, and Dustin answered. Oh, hey, buddy. I was waiting for the professor to be like, hello, what are you doing at my house? And then Dustin yells from the basement or something. But apparently, Dustin answers. And worse, confused and full of adrenaline, I asked, did it work? It's like a little kid listening to a story someone's telling about their life, and they're like, and did you die? Yeah, I totally died. You're right here in front of me. You didn't die. Yes, it worked. You're standing in front of me. Okay. Anyway, Dustin is replying. Yeah, I teleported. He tugged on his shirt, clothes and all. Ended up in the professor's basement and managed to sneak out. My cell phone even survived the trip somehow. Barely able to control myself, I demanded, then why the hell didn't you text me? Text you? I grabbed his shirt with two fists. I thought you were dead. You were screaming and dying. I saw you dissolve. He shook his head and laughed. Screaming? What the hell are you talking about? Actually, I added the hell. What are you talking about? I jumped in and my feet basically hit the ground instantly. Never even touched acid. Teleportation's easy. Can't wait until the professor goes public with his discovery. I gotta get me one of those plants. Maybe even two. Well, obviously you have to have two for them to... But okay, fine. Oh God. So that was how it was. I took a moment to process what had really happened. I let go of his shirt then and patted the rumples down. Cool, yeah, sorry I freaked out then. I turned and started heading away, my blood ice cold. He asked, see you in class tomorrow? Yeah, I called back without looking, too shaken to face that stranger again. See you in class, Dustin. Yeah, it's like a clone. You've been dissolved and reconstructed. You didn't feel the part when you were dying. But, like, is that really stranger or not? He had memory of everything else. Even if it's kind of. That's the classic sci fi of, like, but what's really you? What counts as you? Anyway. The end. Very cool. Very spooky. I like it. I want someone to use it in a D&D campaign. You have to go. Bye. Okay, Darkstorm. I am going to tell you, if this is a very short story that I hit for random story, then I'll read it. If it is a long story, this will be tucked away for the next stream. So, depending on this button, I might be leaving too. So here we go. Yeah. Random story. Random story. Loading. It's not quite short enough that I was going to be on board for reading it. It's just a little bit long. So I'm going to say that we're going to wrap up. I can do redeems if anybody wants to do triggers. We can do those right now, or else we'll prep to raid away. But yeah, I've got a story plucked out for next Creepypasta stream then, and that's great too. Thank you, everybody that has been here for the quick stream. Sorry it wasn't the typical longer stream, but hey, I did something, didn't I? Oh, alright, let's do the singing frog. I can do that. Let's do singing frog. I'm on board. Let's get Herbert out here. He can sing his little ribbited heart away. It's not reading, it's current trigger. Yeah, you bounce. You bounce. The little frog bounce. I love the little frog. That little emote is so cute. I like the little froggy dances. It's just fun. Okay. Yes, here's Herbert. Let's go. There was Herbert singing his little wooden heart out. Thank you for that, Unbanned. Bop. Well, yeah. If you have your raid suggestion, you can go ahead and hit me with that fet. Is there no other redeems? If not, I'm gonna just talk at you folks. I have said that we are doing our subathon. Oh, perfect. November 22nd, 23rd, thereabouts, depending on when my mods will be able to support me. Ooh, that's perfect to visit her then. Thank you. We'll visit Isla. Pronunciation, I don't know yet. But we'll be doing that later to help grow the channel. It's looking like we're getting some good bit of traction on YouTube, so thank you everybody that helps out over there, and I recommend that you go check out the YouTube if you're not currently watching that. The YouTube, I mean like my YouTube channel, not like just YouTube's pretty cool. Go check out the YouTubes. But anyway, If you can check that out, all the VODs that are good to be rewatched are always put up there. And our clips, if you have silly little moments, you're like, oh, somebody clip it. Clip it. I will always forget it. But I love them, and they're doing quite well in the shorts over on YouTube. If you make a clip, I'll probably get it over there. As long as it's, not something that's like inappropriate, and maybe I shouldn't have promoted kind of things. I'll probably put it right over on the shorts. So I always appreciate if you have those. Thank you, everybody. And we still have a couple more weeks of Spooktober. We're gonna keep up with it. Tomorrow we'll be back to SCP, and then Sunday the 20th, as long as nothing else happens, I should be good to be right back into the Creepypasta and read the one that we were about to read tonight. So, yeah. Final happy Indigenous Peoples Day. If you are in the United States, it has wrapped up now, I guess, depending on time zones. Happy time zones. We've had our stuff on different days. Obviously, we're doing Spooktober right now, so I'm kind of focused on that. But it's been the happenings, and that in the United States is there, in Canada, I believe it was Thanksgiving. Different energies going around, and so I want to wish a good day for those specific kinds of days in those very different fonts, to everybody. Yeah. All right. Let's head out. Well, let's copy our raid messages first. Let's head out to raid. I'll start getting that going, and I will say my little ending screen. Yay. Let's go ahead. Alright, we will raid on in. If things will cooperate. There we go. Good. Yes! And it's a birthday stream, an anniversary stream. Wow, it's a very important day to go see. Yes. Thank you for this one, Vet. Alright, good night. Have good eeps. Take care, everybody. Happy time zone, whatever time zone. Bye-bye. Let's go raid. Wee.